However you feel about corporal punishment, what the I-Team has uncovered tonight is certainly eye-opening.
We've done something that's never been done before in Tennessee. We have analyzed the numbers when it comes to how often children with disabilities are physically punished at every school in the mid-state. Some of these kids have autism, others have trouble hearing or seeing. The Channel 4 I-Team's Alana Altler joins us now with her latest investigation.
Demetria, the I-Team found at 60 schools across Middle Tennessee, students with disabilities received corporal punishment at a higher rate than their peers without disabilities. The question parents are grappling with, does corporal punishment create more problems for kids already facing challenges?
High five. Pound it out. Daddy?
What the Garcia family knows
Where's Mommy?
is how a physical reaction from a teacher affected their son with autism. Adrian Garcia remembers getting the call from Browns Chapel Elementary last fall.
She said, we had an incident. Your son was allegedly smacked in the face. And me, I just needed to hear it again. I told her, excuse me, I need you to repeat that last sentence again.
According to a school spokesman, Preston had allegedly hit the teacher first during a meltdown in the bathroom. That same day, the teacher resigned from Rutherford County Schools.
I was pissed. I mean, you smack a 5-year-old in the face, nonverbal, autistic. I don't care what he did. He could have brought hell to you. I mean, you still don't smack a 5-year-old in the face.
While the school's corporal punishment policy does not permit striking a student, the physical impact of the teacher left its mark on Preston.
While we were in the process of potty training, we would go try to take him to the potty, and it would be just a meltdown each time, and he was very, very upset. So we eventually just had to put it on hold. His therapies, we had to increase all his therapies, change doctors, like it was hard. He had a new medication regimen, and it was very difficult.
They're going to cause the child to be more anxious, more stimulated, more angry, more hyper, and basically act out more. So it's not solving the problem, it's making it worse.
How was school?
Good.
I feel like she's more skittish of people than she was. She was more trusting, and now she's not.
Christy Smith is talking about her 9-year-old daughter Bailey, who was diagnosed with ADHD and oppositional defiant disorder. Last winter, administrators at A.H. Roberts Elementary in Overton County called to ask if they could paddle Bailey after she started arguing with a classmate. Smith agreed, but she says she never agreed to what she found afterward.
She was hit to the extent that she was bruised.
Smith says Bailey could barely sit down. Her backside had turned blue. Smith says after the bruises had faded, the impact remained. Bailey's ADHD amplified. She became skittish and more anxious. Under federal law, ADHD can be considered a disability. Smith says in the case of Bailey, her disorder does not warrant special education. But a Channel 4 I-Team investigation found in 60 schools across Middle Tennessee, students who were considered disabled received corporal punishment at a higher rate than their peers without special challenges. And that's just in one school year alone. Take a look. At Allens Elementary in Overton County, 62.5% of students with disabilities were physically punished, but only 7.7% of non-disabled kids received corporal punishment. We found it happening over and over again at all of these schools, and you can find them right now on WSMV.com. And according to policies for all these districts, corporal punishment is allowed for any student, regardless of disability. Spokesman for both Bailey and Preston's districts declined our request for an interview. But one superintendent did agree to talk on camera, and he says what we found deserves a second look.
You brought it to my attention, so now I think it's something we need to do.
In Marshall County, we found that at 5 out of the 9 schools surveyed, students with disabilities received corporal punishment at a higher rate than their peers without disabilities.
I didn't know that. I didn't realize that, and we have not looked at that. We've never discussed that piece of data. Sounds like we need to.
The Garcias hope their school board has those same talks.
Love him so much. And we're so angry that we have to go through this and we have to fight. Like, we shouldn't have to fight so hard.
In Middle Tennessee, 7 school districts have banned corporal punishment altogether. Last November, the U.S. Secretary of Education called on states to ban the practice. But in Tennessee, that decision rests with your local school board. If you're wondering what happens in your child's school, we've created an interactive map for more than 40 districts across the region. You can find that at WSMV.com.
What the Channel 4 I-Team revealed last night has a state lawmaker focused on change. Our investigation showed how often students with disabilities are being paddled in school.
And tonight, advocates and leaders are calling for more protections for the state's most vulnerable students. The I-Team's Alana Otler joins us with these new developments. Alana?
Tom, a Nashville representative wants to ban corporal punishment specifically for students with special needs. This after we found children with disabilities receiving corporal punishment at a higher rate in 60 different schools across the mid-state. Under state law, it's possible for students like Preston Garcia to receive corporal punishment, even though Preston has autism. And the Channel 4 I-Team found that in the mid-state districts that use the practice, none of the policies grant exemptions to children with disabilities.
I think the state needs to step in and do something. I think it doesn't need to rely any longer on a county-to-county basis.
State Representative Jason Powell agrees, which is why he's proposing legislation to ban corporal punishment for students with disabilities.
And this seems like a no-brainer. We should definitely not allow corporal punishment on students who have any type of special needs or disability.
In 2015, Powell tried to pass a law banning corporal punishment for all students. The measure never even made it out of subcommittee. But he says leaders should at least protect the state's most vulnerable children. The Channel 4 I-Team uncovered disparities at dozens of schools in Middle Tennessee. Take Allen's Elementary in Overton County, where more than 62% of students with disabilities received corporal punishment. Compare that to just over 7% of students without disabilities.
It's absolutely unfair to have students with disabilities punished at a higher level than students who do not have a disability. I would say that it's very troubling. To say that it's shocking, it's not.
Advocate Sherry Wilds also says the practice should be banned. She argues if kids are getting punished because of their disability, that could be grounds for discrimination.
Even students who have a full-blown meltdown in school, maybe because they are on the autism spectrum, they don't typically plan that out.
It's something the Garcias know all too well. They say Preston was smacked last year by his teacher while having a meltdown. His parents say the bruise may have faded, but the impact remains every day.
Everything was a battle from there on. Everything we did. And I think anxiety as well, like he thought he was going to be smacked.
That special ed teacher accused of smacking Preston resigned the same day as the incident. A spokesman for Rutherford County Schools say they do not condone that teacher's actions, but it should be noted the district still uses corporal punishment. Only 7 districts, including metro schools, have banned the practice.
An I-Team investigation has gotten some big results. The state is taking a close look at an issue the I-Team's Alana Otler first exposed. She found that students with disabilities are paddled at a higher rate than other children, and it's happening at 60 schools in our area. Alana's here now with what happens next.
This week, the Tennessee Comptroller received a letter from 2 state senators asking the office to look at why this is happening.
That's soccer?
Tonight, vindication can be felt from Murfreesboro.
How was school?
To Livingston. That's because the state office has agreed to review a practice some parents say changed their child's life.
And when I found out, I was happy. It's going to help out Preston, other special needs students, and hopefully regular students.
Preston has autism. The Garcias say last year he was hit by his teacher while having a meltdown. That teacher was fired. But under state law, administrators can use corporal punishment, even for students with special needs. And it happens more than you may think. A Channel 4 I-Team investigation revealed at 60 mid-state schools, students with disabilities received corporal punishment at a higher rate than their peers without disabilities.
Yeah, I mean, the evidence was so strong that, you can't deny it.
Christy Smith says she's excited because the review could prompt change. Smith says her daughter developed bruises after getting paddled, but the emotional damage lasted far longer. Listen to what Smith said in April.
I feel like she's more skittish of people than she was. She was more trusting, and now she's not.
This week, 2 state senators asked the comptroller to research the issue, writing, "It appears children with disabilities are receiving disciplinary action, including corporal punishment, at a much higher rate." The I-Team found policies vary by school district. Metro schools banned the practice years ago. But in Marshall County, corporal punishment remains until the school board decides otherwise.
Right now, that's not big on our radar. We're not having a lot of issues with that.
Adrian Garcia is already looking beyond the review, hoping lawmakers ban corporal punishment for students like Preston.
Channel 4 brought the story. They helped us.
The state has taken action against a teacher accused of striking a boy with autism. The Board of Education voted to revoke her license last week after what they call inappropriate physical contact. And it comes as more questions are raised over the use of physical punishment against students with disabilities, an issue first exposed by the News 4 I-Team's Alana Otler. And she's here now with new information. Alana?
In this case, the state board found the use of corporal punishment was unauthorized. But under state law, it is legal to physically discipline students with disabilities. Now, officials from state lawmakers to the governor are saying it's time to take a second look. Nearly a year after Jennifer Grieva was accused of slapping a boy with autism, the State Board of Education revoked the teacher's license. Grieva resigned from Rutherford County Schools the same day she allegedly struck Preston Garcia. The boy's father remembers the incident like yesterday.
I mean, I was pissed. You smack a 5-year-old in the face, nonverbal, autistic. I don't care what he did. He could have brought hell to you. I mean, you still don't smack a 5-year-old in the face.
Today, the News 4 I-Team tried reaching Grieva, but no one was home. According to the board's attorney, Grieva did not challenge her revocation.
We absolutely frown upon any type of physical misconduct with a student.
In this case, the Garcias did not authorize physical discipline for their son. But in Rutherford County Schools and dozens of other districts, it is legal to use corporal punishment on students with disabilities. In fact, the I-Team found at 60 mid-state schools, students with disabilities received corporal punishment at a higher rate than their peers without disabilities. Governor Bill Haslam says it's time to examine why.
I think it's definitely time for us to dig in and say what's causing that, and a change would certainly feel appropriate from everything I know.
Last month, the Tennessee comptroller agreed to investigate the matter at the request of 2 state senators. When asked, Haslam said he did not support the use of corporal punishment for students with disabilities.
It's hard for me to envision a scenario where having students with disabilities would have more corporal punishment than non-disabled students.
State Representative Jason Powell has already proposed legislation to ban the practice for special needs students. Previous attempts to ban corporal punishment have failed. As for Grieva, she can apply for her license to get reinstated at any time. But according to board policy, the onus is on her to prove she's able to teach again. For the News 4 I-Team, I'm Alana Otler.